Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Professor Black, members of the Board of Governors of the Institute of Ismaili Studies, members of staff at the IIS, leaders of the Jamaat, our generous supporters, family, friends, students, and graduates, and all those watching this via our webcast, good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you today to the 2017 graduation ceremony for the IIS Secondary Teacher Education Program, fondly known as STEP. My name is Zuleika Haji, and it is a special privilege to be your host for this afternoon's celebrations. As His Highness the Aga Khan notes, quote, "Ceremonies of the sort we observe today are valuable because they help us to bridge the past and the future, to see ourselves as players in larger narratives," unquote. This institute's narrative is now 40 years old, and in that time, both the communities you serve and the programs through which you serve them have broadened dramatically. This afternoon should be a proud and memorable day in your lives, as we celebrate your achievements and your future aspirations. In order to begin the proceedings, may I kindly invite Farida Husseini and Nadir Nur Ali Wazir to deliver a recitation from the Holy Quran and its translation. The Quranic recitation will begin with the Surah Al-Rum, ayat 19 to 22. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ويحيي الأرض بعد موتها وكذلك تخرجون ومن آياته أن خلقكم من تراب ثم إذا أنتم بشر تنتشرون ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين صدق الله العلي العظيم.
In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. He brings forth the living from the dead, and He brings forth the dead from the living. And He revives the earth after it is dead. Even so you shall be brought forth. And of his signs is that he created you of dust. Then lo, you are mortals, all scattered abroad. And of his signs is that he created for you of yourselves spouses, that you might repose in them. And he has set between you love and mercy. Surely in that are signs for a people who consider. And of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the variety of your tongues and your hues. Surely in that are the signs for all living beings.
Thank you, Farida and Nadir. I now have the pleasure of introducing our first speaker, who is no stranger to our students. The head of the Department of Graduate Studies, Dr. Leila Halani, is in charge of overseeing the Secondary Teacher Education Program and the Graduate Program in Islamic Studies and Humanities, known as JIPISH. Dr. Halani joined the Institute's graduate program in 1995. She read for an MPhil in Social and Cultural Anthropology at Oxford, where she also received her doctorate of philosophy in social anthropology. Prior to joining the IIS, she was a research fellow at the University of Edinburgh. As an alumna of JIPISH, Dr. Halani brings to this role not only her experiences from other academic positions, but also her personal understanding of student experiences at the IIS. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Leila Halani.
Thank you, Zuleika, for the introduction and for the warm welcome to all our guests today. We are gathered here today to celebrate the achievements of the 8th cohort of the Secondary Teacher Education Program. 10 years ago, in 2007, the IIS embarked on an ambitious journey of training professional secondary level teachers trained in Islamic humanities and capable of teaching the IIS secondary curriculum to Ismaili Muslim children around the world in multiple cultural and linguistic contexts. 10 years on, we have trained over 250 teachers who are contributing to the education of thousands of children while also engaging with parents, leaders, and the community at large, transforming the way religious education is understood and taught in numerous contexts. History will provide its own commentary on this creative and important initiative, but I want to take this opportunity to reflect on the critical role STEP teachers are playing and will hopefully continue to play in the years to come. In order to do this, let us understand the significance of religious education for a faith community. And for this, let us look at some of the things we have done in our past, where education in Muslim institutions centered around religion, and religious sciences was seen as the basis on which all other knowledge and subjects revolved. Today we live in a different world, and our children are growing up in a globalized, connected world in which attitudes to religion range from reverence to complete indifference and even antipathy. In fact, some misguided and reductionist views blame religion for the multidimensional, ethnic, geopolitical, social strife and conflicts that we witness around the world. Questions about the role of religion in society abound. There are several regions in the world where children may go through primary and secondary schooling with without any engagement with religious education, or may encounter a parochial ideological curriculum focusing on exclusivist truth claims. Therefore, Ismailis, like other faith groups, are faced with the challenge of designing and implementing a supplementary education system that does justice to their tradition and history, and most importantly, ensures the perpetuation and survival of the community. The thought of the young generation being disconnected from their own heritage and tradition does not bode well for a faith community. Hence, the need for STEP with its engagement in an academic study of Islam whilst taking responsibility for the religious nurture of young minds. While the two need not be mutually exclusive, they don't often come together. If you are only training in doctrinal and theological aspects, then you do not have the ability to critically engage with the broader context, issues, and tools that you can get from academia. On the other hand, one can engage in an academic study of Islam without empathy, appreciation, and insights into the religious dimension and experiences. STEP hence stands out in its attempts to bridge the two, which is what makes your role, and I'm speaking now to the graduates and the STEP teachers who are joining us via the web, it makes your role unique and challenging at the same time. Your role is critical to the future of the Ismaili community. And that brings me back to the beginning of the talk where I indicated that the responsibilities for STEP teachers, while rooted in the teaching tradition, goes well beyond it. STEP aims to train teacher scholars who can integrate thinking with practice. For this, you need a broad-based knowledge in Islamic humanities and have the pedagogical skills to represent a vision of Islam which is sensitive to tradition and mindfully open to modernity. As His Highness the Aga Khan has said, and I quote, "Observe around you what has happened in many parts of the world where teachers are dealing in matters of faith where they are not educated properly to do so." Unquote. Through your pedagogy, you should be able to mediate the content informed by local perspectives and an understanding of issues faced by young people. Your journey to fulfill this vision has just started, and I wish you a most successful journey. We endeavor to be with you and work with you to make this journey smooth, meaningful, and fulfilling. We also want to take this opportunity to thank your families and your ITREBs for supporting you in your endeavors. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Leila. Our next speaker is the director of the UCL Institute of Education, IOE. Professor Becky Francis joined the IOE from King's College London, where she was Professor of Education and Social Justice. Her previous roles include the Director of Education at the RSA. Becky has combined academic research and policy work in education throughout her career. She regularly serves as a consultant to the UK government and international agencies and is a frequent media commentator on education issues. Becky's academic expertise centers on social identities and inequalities in educational contexts. Her policy research focuses on school quality and social class. In addition, she has spearheaded long-standing research programs, acted as a judge for various national practitioner awards, and is a trustee of Impetus PEF, which supports charities working with disadvantaged young people. Please join me in welcoming Professor Becky Francis.
It's wonderful to see you all. Graduation ceremonies are very special occasions for all concerned: graduates, their families and friends, academic staff, and of course the host organisations. But this is particularly special because you're going into one of the most important areas of work in the world: education. Most of you will have embarked on this learning journey with the explicit aspiration to make a difference to the lives of young people. And of course that requires passion and real commitment, which I know you've shown during your studies. And you'll be working towards values that the UCL Institute of Education stands for very strongly: enriching lives, increasing social justice, combating ignorance, and spreading wisdom. Congratulations to you all for your success in the studies, the fruits of your hard work, and on your embarkation to a new stage of the journey. Now, these celebrations are also about saying thank you. Your success has been achieved by enormous effort on your part, but of course, you've also been supported by tutors, family and friends, for which I know we're all very grateful. So graduands, let's take the chance to show our appreciation to your supporters here with a round of applause. As you know, your qualifications are UCL Institute of Education degrees in collaboration with the Institute of Ismaili Studies. You know how rigorous your programme has been, but we make no apology for the demands of our courses. The Institute of Education's mission is to improve lives through education, and we do that by developing outstanding practitioners, and also by our world-leading research. That research extends far beyond the school classroom to every phase of education and into the fields of children and families, health and well-being, and international development. It shapes policy and practice in every continent. And as well as that impact being through our research findings and their impact on policy and practice, this is also through the work of our alumni, who work in all areas of education and related sectors across the world, often at the very highest level. And it's extremely heartening that our very special community continues to receive external recognition. Last year, the Institute of Education was awarded a Queen's Anniversary Prize for its world-leading contribution to the policy and practice of education internationally and its innovative social research. Then last month, the QS World University Rankings placed us top in the world for education, again, for the 4th year in a row. So, and these accolades reflect your excellence as students, as well as that of our staff and researchers. So I'm sure you'll set yourself ambitious professional goals. You'll need resilience, determination, and self-reflection to achieve those. I'm sure your studies have prepared you well to do that. So may your graduation be just the beginning of a transformational lifelong learning journey, and we shall enjoy celebrating all of your successes. Thank you.
It is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker for the class of 2016 graduation ceremony, Professor Paul Black. Professor Black worked as a researcher and lecturer in physics for 20 years before moving to a chair in science education. He made contributions both to school curriculum development in the Nuffield projects and to research into learning and assessment. Professor Black chaired the government's task group on assessment and testing, and in addition has served as Vice President of the International Union of Pure and Applied Physics, on the ESRC Research Grants Board, on projects of the USA National Research Council, and as visiting professor at Stanford University in California. He is Professor Emeritus at King's College London, and his work on formative assessment with Dylan Wiliam and others has had widespread impact. Please join me in welcoming Professor Paul Black.
I'm very privileged to have been asked to contribute to this very important occasion. I wondered, what did I have to contribute? And I had a similar question mark against my contribution when I was invited to write a chapter to a book. It's a big book, it's a very heavy book. It's got 41 chapters in it, 700 pages. It's an international handbook of learning, teaching and reading in faith-based schools. I thought to myself, what have I got to contribute to that? Certainly not about religious education, it's not my special field. But as a committed Catholic, and that's why then people ask me, do I have something to say? And I found in reading this book particularly, both in trying to contribute to it, and then subsequently reading to the other chapters, 5 of which were by Muslim authors, that helped me to understand my position. And I would start by a brief quote from one chapter by a Muslim educator, Omar Isa. He said, about his experience starting to teach, I somehow felt a bit uneasy about the way I was treating learners in classroom practice. My understanding of being a teacher in Islam was at odds with my classroom practice. A teacher in Islam must consult and most of all make good use of good actions. Those are principles, and I can reflect reasons why he felt uneasy, the way he was worried about how his principles played into his teaching in every classroom, not just in RE. And I balance what he says by a quote from a Catholic author, an American author, Thomas Groome. One of his statements was this: the content, process and environment of Catholic education should reflect to its students that they are made in the image and likeness of God. They have a right to a curriculum that convinces them of their inherent goodness, that convinces them of their dignity and self-worth, that treats them with respect, that helps to develop their every good gift and talent. I've always been in love with that piece ever since I first read it. Convinces them of their dignity and self-worth. Does this happen in classrooms in general? A lot of research has shown that what happens is nothing like this. You have a teacher who's interested, perhaps nervous, and wants to deliver the right thing. So he gives a lecture, as I'm doing now. He wants to do better than that. He wants some interaction. And then you get some of the cheap forms of interaction. The teacher asks a question, some pupils might answer. They'll answer if they're confident they got the right answer. If it's right, the teacher's glad and goes on to the next question. If it's wrong, it says it's wrong, puts it right and goes on. And what you have is what one author has called recitation. Teacher, pupil, teacher, pupil, teacher, pupil, that sort of interaction. That is not convincing pupils of their dignity and self-worth. What happens then is that a lot of pupils keep out of the way, hoping no one asks them a question. The few bright ones who are confident will contribute, and the lesson will proceed, and will not be doing its work. And in working with teachers, I found that some would like to change on this and need support and encouragement. Here's a teacher who had worked with us commenting afterwards about how it used to be. When a question is asked or a problem posed, who is thinking of the answer? Is anybody thinking about the problem apart from the teacher? How many pupils are actively engaged in thinking about the problem? Is it just a few well-motivated pupils, or worse, is it just one the teacher picks out to answer the question, who then, like a frightened rabbit, will say, "Who, me, sir?" So, can we get away from that? Well, I want to illustrate what getting away from that might sound like. So I'm going to take a small piece of a transcript from a lesson of a teacher of a group we had worked with. He was a science teacher, because that's the bit I think I understand. And he was introducing the topic of photosynthesis. Don't worry if you don't know what that's about very much, but because it's the beginning of his teaching on this to pupils at the beginning of secondary school. And what he had done is, first of all, a month or two beforehand, set up two plants of the same sort, put one in the window with plenty of light, one in a dark corner. When this lesson started, he put those before them and said, "That's what happened. They look very different. Why do you think it is?" He then walked away and left them for a few minutes to chat to one another. And they were used to this with this teacher, and they could talk, and that would give them confidence to speak up and start them thinking. And then he comes back and asks them, "Why are these plants different?" So he said, "What do you think, Jamie?" Drop on anyone, that's part of the rule. Everyone must be prepared to say something. And Jamie said, "We thought that," and tailed away. The teacher said, "You thought?" And then Jamie said that the big un had eaten them more light. Now here's Jamie obviously having a trouble, not the confidence. And the teacher's response was perfect. "You thought? Lay it back, I'm interested, let me know." And then out it comes. Not in a carefully framed, forward situation. One of the troubles with the pupil is knowing how to state his idea clearly without making a fool of himself. The big un had opened more light. So the teacher says, "Right, I think I know what Jamie's getting at. Can anyone put the ideas together? Window, light, plants." And then Richard comes up. "Yes, we thought me and Dean had grown bigger because it was getting more food." Several students put their hands up, and he pointed to another one, and she said, "No, it grows where there's a lot of light, and that's near the window." The teacher said, "Richard thinks the plant is getting more food, and Susan and the others, yes, thinks it's because the plant's getting more light. What do others think?" This teacher was not telling them the right answer. He was steering it to get the beginnings of the problem that they were going to look at very clear. What he was doing is finding out where they are already, finding out what their starting ideas are so he can build on them. You've got the idea, you don't overlay anything they have already by telling them the right stuff. That's no way of producing learning. That's no way of treating them with dignity and self-worth. He was building, and he went on with that lesson, but that's another story. But that interaction is very important. And it's deeply important. There's one person who has studied such dialogue very extensively in different countries, Robin Alexander, said this: "Children we now know need to talk and to experience a rich diet of spoken language in order to think and to learn. Reading, writing and number may be acknowledged curriculum basics, but talk is arguably the true foundation of learning." And what he had found, because he studied countries from Russia across the continent and across to America, was that in the Anglophone countries, this country, the USA, many teachers did not believe that talking mattered a great deal. In some Eastern European countries, notably Russia, teachers were convinced that talking in classroom was a very important part of learning. And that matters a great deal. And it's giving getting pupils to talk, helping them to check against one another, giving them feedback on what they've said. That's the way it goes. But it's not, of course, the only way of learning. You can also learn in a more relaxed way, in a different time scale, on written work. And again, the question is, how do you give feedback, react to pupils' written work? Do you give it marks or grades? Or do you focus on pointing out what's good with it, pointing out what's defective, making suggestions about how to improve? And that's a choice. The choice between feedback giving marks as grades and feedback given only as comments can make a profound difference. The way in which students view themselves as learners. Confidence and independence in learning is best developed by the second choice, by feedback which gives advice for improvement and avoids judgment. And that matters. Learners must believe that success is due to internal factors that they can change, and not due to factors outside their control, such as ability or being liked by the teacher. Teachers who believe in the value of competition seem to be unaware of such evidence, and they neglect the fact that every competition stigmatizes the failures as well as rewarding the winners. That's not the way. The way is to treat each pupil as valuable, to value what they have been able to do, and convince them that you believe they can do better. That's not making all pupils believe they're equally able. They'll never believe you anyway. But wherever they are, you believe that they have done something useful, and you are helping them to grow, believe in what they have worked on. And that sort of work's been worked on by American researcher Carol Dweck. And this is one of her reflections on findings of research on that and on the effects on adults subsequently. I've seen so many people with one consuming goal of proving themselves in the classroom, in their careers, in their relationships. Every situation calls for a confirmation of their intelligence, personality, or character. Every situation is evaluated. Will I succeed or fail? Will I look smart or dumb? Will I be accepted or rejected? Will I feel like a winner or a loser? That's not the result of treating every child with dignity, convincing them of their dignity and self-worth. And the factor common to these, to the written and the oral, the dialogue in the classroom, and the to and fro in writing and written feedback, they involve the development with students of a habit of participating in reasoning discourse. And to take a complementary but slightly different look, I go back to my favourite American author, Thomas Groome. He wrote the following: educators can take over the function that learners should be doing, learning how to learn, making up their own minds, reaching personal decisions. Such imbalance ill serves learners and can be destructive to educators. There is a fine line between empowering learners as their own people and overpowering them, making them too dependent or indebted to a teacher or parent. Walking this tightrope is an aspect of the educator's spiritual discipline of a balanced life. Not just it's good for the pupils, it's actually vital to their personal development, the spiritual discipline of the educator, to not to tell people how good they are, but to just use that, combine that with honesty about what they cannot do. Do not say you are an intelligent child. In fact, one of Carol Dweck's key lines is never praise a child. For parents or teachers, never praise a child. Never praise a child. Praise what they did, not them as a person. You're not talking about inherent. You're talking about what you have achieved. Whatever the level of achievement, you're convincing them they can do better. That is what's meant by convincing people of their dignity and self-worth. And this is where the teacher is so important. And by quoting a headmaster of a Catholic school, saying this: parents know that for the child, the encounter with the teacher is the first major step into outside society, the beginning of a long journey toward adulthood in which the role of the teacher is going to be decisive. Teachers are therefore not in the first instance agents either of a national curriculum or of the state. The role of the teacher is to attract pupils progressively into the realms of culture to which they belong. This culture consists partly of a heritage which links them to the past, and partly of a range of skills and opportunities which links them to the future. A great asset of faith-based schools is they have a heritage, a firmly focused one which goes to the heart of the aims of a person's life. And at the same time, therefore, it should combine that with leading pupils into the broader culture in which they can operate as responsible and believing adults. So I go back to finish by going back to my quotation with which I started from the Muslim author in this book, Omar Islam. I somehow felt a bit uneasy about the way I was treating learners in classroom practice. My understanding of being a teacher in Islam was at odds with my classroom practice. A teacher in Islam must consult and most of all make use of good actions. Faith-based schools seek to develop a sense of identity in all their students, arising from their religious framework and understanding. I hope that's the key message which should be taken at an occasion like this, and you'll have it already. Rejoice in it, celebrate it, work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Black, for that very apt and thought-provoking keynote. Next, I would like to present to you the class of 2016 through a short PowerPoint presentation introducing the graduands of STEP 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2016, please give them a round of applause. I would now like to call upon the stage Dr. Farhad Daftari, co-director of the Institute of Ismaili Studies, and Professor Becky Francis for the presentation of the certificates. May I also request the graduands to come up and receive their certificates as their names are called. Al-Karim Mehboob Shivji, USA. Nadia Barkat Ali Bamani, USA.